All right, we're live on Pardon the Dank on January 14th, 2023 with Odie Diesel of Homegrown Natural Wonders, known for Doctor Who, probably his most famous piece of work at this point. Quantum Kush, maybe that's pretty
Yeah,
popular.
our top three I would say is Quantum Kush, Doctor Who, and Mickey Kush.
Mickey Kush, yeah, yeah. So how you doing tonight?
Doing well, thank you. Just out running around. Had to go help my mother out. Her car broke down, so we had to call a tow truck, and just got done playing with all that fun stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna
other
say it
than
looked like you have traffic behind you, like zooming by.
yeah, I'm sitting in a car actually. They're inside eating dinner. My mom and her husband. So yeah.
So yeah, I was doing looking at some of your previous interviews that you had done, and you had said like your first project was a California red hair to a hash plant. Did
Yes.
anything ever come out of that, or did you ever revisit that since?
No, that was with an old roommate way back in the early 90s. Yeah, no. It didn't really go too far. We just started playing around, just for
Do you, do you
ourselves.
do you think that was the same as the Calio Kush?
No, it definitely was not orange.
Oh, wasn't that? Oh, it
Calios
wasn't that
pretty
one.
orangey. But yeah, no,
So
this thing was just covered in red hairs. I mean, it was just, and that's why it was California red hair. I mean, it was probably a Mexican sativa of some sort.
yeah, there was something that used to called California Red Bud that we'd see sometimes in Seattle, but it was pretty rare. But every once in a while, you'll see somebody, that traveled up from NorCal and they'd have some weed, and it would be that type of weed. Um,
Right.
Never knew what it was. It was kind of earthy tasting stuff that they had.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
definitely wasn't gassy or fruity or, definitely more earthy, more the OG or the Kush kind of thing. I would say, I guess not OG, but Kush.
what? So what's your palate go for these days? Are you into the gassy stuff that's kind of trending right now, or you?
You we've always been fairly fruity as far as like our strains go. Cherries
Yeah,
and
I mean,
berries.
but that's the
Yeah,
Northwest. It's like San Francisco North is fruity, and it's like they used to say, OG in LA and Purple in the Bay, and that's
yes,
like you know still
I would
holds
agree with
true. I
that.
think you know,
I would agree. So yeah,
but yeah,
I started playing with some lemon G in the last crosses we did over at Hudnall's place, or Doghouse's place. I'm really liking that cross, so probably going to work with that a little bit more. Um, just started a bunch more seeds of it here recently, so yeah, got a few
yeah.
different
It's
strains that we're going to revisit and
about
rework.
was it maybe 2 3 years ago, five more now. You were working on a line with Doctor Who, the Doctor Who mail, and
Yep.
there was different who's. They were called who's different who's. Did that come into fruition? Did that come into fruition? And where do you find those if they are
Yeah,
out
none of
there?
those actually hit actual market. We That was a project that we were doing more so to just straight up sell genetics to green, larger growers and whatnot. So you could buy a specific genetic. We were talking with at that point in time a couple of people from Wu Tang and a few people like that. They wanted their own genetics and the certain things that they liked, so we crossed them, and yeah, it just got a little weird, so we didn't go forward with it. But I still have those 17 different crosses that I did to the Doctor Who, and I'm going back through them. The only place they ever got popped was at Harborside. We did a large pheno hunt there. Other than that, yeah, I've released a few for like um, fundraising things. But other than that, yeah, they're not available pretty much to public.
the ones that you hunted at Harborside, did the flower get put into Prop 64? Like, is it in the market?
It is. No, we didn't wind up keeping any of them. We did a really
Oh,
large
yeah.
pheno hunt, and we were to. At that point, we were trying to make strains for Harborside or sell Harborside strains or whatever, and
Like, yeah.
we wound up leasing them a couple of strains of ours at the end of it all for like a year and a half, but that was it. We didn't wind up actually, giving them any genetics as far as that. Most of the stuff we killed off, just because, yeah. But
Did
we
you
went through like 6,700 different females and for multiple breeders and
6,700? Wow.
mm,
Wow. Was that out? Was that directly outdoor, or was that in greenhouse?
greenhouse in greenhouses.
Greenhouse. Are
Yeah.
you guys doing light depth?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so that's definitely a quick way to pheno hunt, especially when
It
you're
is.
at that scale. Holy
Yeah,
crap!
50 to 100 is a pretty decent amount to look at. In Arizona, we did 500 of each, which was kind of cool. You really got to see what the dads and moms brought to the picture. Same moms, different dads. So you really got more or less, you really got to see what the dads brought. Um, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's kind of overwhelming when you're dealing with a lot of different breeders and there's 500 of each strain.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, I guess a lot of people, they know you from the TGA days. Um, how did that start? Did I hear that you maybe knew Dioxide prior? Did you know him
Yeah,
first?
yeah, I knew Dioxide prior. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, he was working at the local grow store, so I met him in there, and I started bringing in flowers for them guys to try. You know how it is with the grow store; you always want to show off your stuff, and finally, showed him enough stuff that we had created, and then we won this, the OMCA's, and he's like, "Well, why don't you guys just start making seeds en masse for us?" And then, he brought Seb out to my house. He did a little shoot and article on our garden with the Oregon diesel and stuff to that effect. They were all blown away with the Oregon diesel that it's done in the beginning of September. Um, but yeah, so that was kind of the beginning of Dioxide. Definitely was a huge part of it.
Yeah, the Oregon Diesel. That's good stuff. Um, uh, Rob, that goes by Technologic Hill. He had
Yep.
gave me a cut of that one time, but it didn't make it across the mountains, unfortunately.
That's a bummer.
But yeah, but that's some stuff. Had some early flower tendencies. I remember, like when he was
Yeah.
growing it,
Yep. It
and
has we call it a semi-auto flower because it'll veg just fine in like 22 to 24 hours of light. Once you get around that 18-hour light thing, it starts giving you issues. At 17 and a half hours of light, you're flat out in flower. So pretty much once you put it outside, it's going into flower unless you've got veg light on it.
have you ever thought about making like F2s of that or back crosses of that? Just
Yeah,
releasing in seed.
we've done a few different things with it. In the crosses that we've done used her in, right about 30% or so of the progeny do the same thing. So, it passes along a bit. But yeah, if we were to back square it a time or two, it'd probably, get it to where all of them were for sure. And we're in, like
Yeah,
I said,
but I'd want to like to find like that like the purple trichomes where it makes the purple rosin, the purple hat.
right,
Like it
right,
would be nice to see that passed down into the progeny.
right, absolutely. And it does. It does. That's just later on, you know, but you got to let it go, probably 10 to 11 weeks, I think, to
Yeah,
get
that's
that
such
up
a
into
dope
the trichomes.
So what was the first stuff that you wind up doing with TGA? Was it something with Oregon Diesel or was it Like, what
Um,
were you?
so we were testers for them for a while beforehand, and we had found a male time wreck that we really liked, and we used him against all of our moms. We had like the Oregon Diesel, the Mad Scientist, the Sweet Irish Kush, um, the Wet Dog, and a couple other things that we used. And those were the first releases. Doctor Who was those that side that Mel was the first set that we really released, and then Sub kind of wanted us to do Jack the Ripper crosses, so Dioxide gave us the Mel Jack the Ripper that they use, and that's where Mickey Kush and Professor Chaos and those other ones came across that, but they were like second type of release. That's it.
The time wreck, that was a Dioxide creation, if I understand.
It was.
That yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
Dioxide created most of the the later
was
stuff.
that a train wreck? Was that a train wreck Trinity cross or what?
Yeah, that story's kind of still out there, but that's what they pretty much think.
They think, yeah.
They think.
I
Not
had
sure.
heard some different stuff over the years. It changed. But yeah, I don't know whatever came of that. um,
well, well, they were getting a couple of different things out of NorCal, and they weren't quite sure where those bag seeds came out of. So that was kind of the beginning of it all. But it was
yeah.
Trinity or one of the two, and yeah.
Well, whether I heard it was whether or not the train wreck was a real cut or not.
Right.
They are.
Right.
So
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I wasn't there for all of that, so
I wasn't
we
there. I
just
heard stories back in the day, and then
right.
who knows? Who knows? And Philos came about, and then everybody was submitting their stuff, and then Philos became the devil, and then nobody,
Yeah.
and then now we got Canopedia, which is
Right.
an interesting thing. Its data, the way it lays it out, is quite a bit different. They definitely do a more thorough job. Like if you pay for the higher tests, which they're not cheap, but definitely gives you a lot of information, and you can see what direction if you're breathing in the right direction or not. Hopefully you have
Right.
a plan where you're breathing in a certain direction.
Right.
So you said you're not much into the gas, so you wouldn't, so you probably wouldn't be a Chem Dog fan.
Actually, I am a Chem Dog fan, and we've done a few Chem Dog crosses. But we have the Chem Dog 91, the other one. So
Yeah.
if you know that story, you know that there's multiple people that actually got the seeds out of that bag, and yeah. So we have what's considered the other one, not the VA skunk one, or whatever, or the Chem
The
91.
fours are like the reunion cut, and then you got the D, and I like the D a lot because it's like a bearing grease kind of terps. The four I feel is more like a bright fuely gasoline kind of. 91 I have not experienced it myself. There was one time when Harborside was selling clones of that at the
Right.
drive-through, and I missed the drop.
Right. Right. And I think that's the one that's the other one, but I'm not quite sure.
Like a skunk,
Yeah, no.
it's like a skunk 91 VA.
I think that's the one that's the other one, but I'm not quite sure.
And there's
Yeah, no.
it's like a skunk 91 VA.
I think that's the one that's the other one, but I'm not quite sure.
And there's
Yeah, no. I think it's skunk 91.
Whoa, why is it echoing? Wow.
That's a crazy loop.
Stupid computer. Yeah, the skunk 91 VA, the regular 91. And then there was like a bunch of stuff like Cali Connect put out that was Kim derivatives. And I don't know if those are just F1s that he made from the clone onlys to put it in seed form, which is probably what that is. A lot of the Cali Connect stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's but Swerve did so much work. He's like the OGs of the OGs, right? I mean, as far as the
Yeah.
breeding.
Oh yeah,
He's got
I don't hate on I don't hate on Swerve. I think like there was a moment there where there was funny stuff with the cookies, like I don't know, 7, 8 years
right,
ago. But that I mean, cookies is funny in themselves. So um,
right, right.
I don't
That
you know.
is,
But yeah, he put a lot of stuff like Swerve put a lot of stuff like SFEOG and a lot of the
yeah,
chems and a lot of the foundational stuff that was popular in Southern California into seed form before
right,
anybody else did.
right.
So, you know, you got to give him credit for that, you know.
No, absolutely. He's the OG for that for sure.
You know. And then yeah, then you have but yeah, so you're originally from Oregon or you moved to Oregon?
I moved to Oregon in 2003. I'm originally from Colorado, which is where I'm back at now.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, and getting
What's the,
ready to. Sorry.
yeah, for a while I heard you were in California. Like there were rumors that you were doing stuff in Harborside.
Yeah, no, we worked at Harborside for a while with the Dutch consulting company with Short and Sonny and Pablo. Um, Karma was part of the team, and there's a
Oh,
few people.
nice.
But yeah, no, we were there. We were sent in as like a Trojan horse to clean everything up and get everything ready for the people that were buying them out. So the D'Angelos haven't owned Harborside for a long time.
Oh, wow. Did you get to use it, grow any of your stuff there?
Yeah, no,
Like
that's
your
what that's
that's
those
where it was happening.
17. Yeah, the 17 Doctor Who crosses that we did that we
Yeah.
germinated. That's the only place they've ever been germinated. So yeah, we did a few there. But we were there for about a year and a half, and then Sonny and I went and did some indoor stuff, and then Sonny went on to Lowell. Well, not Lowell Farms first. He went and worked at another farm for a while, and I went to a different outdoor facility, and yeah, left there about a year ago. Um, California's market now is just kind of really all over the
No,
place.
yeah, it's worth nothing. Worth nothing right now. Nothing's worth
Yeah.
nothing. I mean, it
So
doesn't matter who it is. It's all fell through the like. You go walk into the dispensary, the prices are 50% of what they were a year ago.
right, right. And there's more than anybody could consume. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then
Um,
you got a lot of people that are just they either got to sell it at cost or right below cost at some point, because they have to turn something, right? They have to keep the rooms going, the production
yeah,
going, and pay.
the farm that I was working at went under. We were sitting on over 3,000 pounds of finished flower and harvesting more like every 3 weeks, and they couldn't get rid of it. So it's kind of like, well, this is the end. They shut down and sold out, and yeah,
And
it
that's
took.
wild for a state with like 38 million people. They can't.
Well, that just shows you how much is being produced. I
Yeah,
mean,
they issue too
there's
many
38 million,
licenses.
there's 38 million people there, and LA gets a lot of tourism, and San Francisco gets a lot of tourism. There's quite a bit of tourism that happens there, but realistically, what is the real percentage of how many of those people consume? Right? So,
Yeah. Oh, I'd heard. I was in a dispensary actually recently, and someone had told me they were talking about Doctor Who. There were people from Oregon that were traveling, and I'm down in Southern California. I used to live in Seattle, but I moved down here a while ago. And they were telling me that Doctor Who was pulled off the market, and then someone was telling me no, it was just changed to a different name. Is there
yeah,
any validity?
there is. So, Oregon in the very beginning came out with a list of names that could not be used, and Doctor Who was on that list. But so was Cinderella 99 and a whole bunch of other ones. There was like 100 and something different names that they had
Basically,
added.
trademark.
I mean, well, so now here's the thing. We trademarked all the names on our strains, And Doctor Who, because it's a different spelling, we were able to get away with it. You know, the BBC owns spelled out Doctor Who.
Yeah.
We're just Doctor Dot Who, right? So good old Al
Yeah.
Yankovic did us a lot of good there as far as, off plays, offsets, whatever. Um, but yeah, we haven't had any issues from BBC or anything to that effect.
Are you going to are you going to keep releasing it? Like do further generations of Doctor Who?
We are
Release the
actually
first.
we're about ready to feminize the Doctor Who Grape Haichu cut, and also feminize the Doctor Who Master Cut from Geek Farms. So yeah,
But no more regs.
not for the Doctor Who. No, we don't have we don't have the dads anymore. So
Oh,
if we work the strain further, it would be a F2, F3, or back cross into one that we prefer. But yeah, we don't have the original dads, so it wouldn't be the same cross.
and then you're yeah, that's and that was Time Wreck. Is that right?
Yep. Time
Mad
Wreck by
Science.
Mad Scientist. And Mad
Yeah.
Scientist won back-to-back OMCAs in 2010 and 2011. And then in 2012, Doctor Who took first place and Mad Scientist took third place.
And then you had your other ones. Was it Mickey Kush, Touch of Grey? Those were Jagger Mail.
Yeah.
And
Those,
that you killed off when you solo, let's say. And then
yes.
did you
We
ever
got
get
rid of
that?
it.
Did you ever are you ever going to bring that back? Another get JTR back? Because I don't know. Maybe somebody still has it.
No, I don't think anybody has it anymore. I'm pretty sure it got lost, from my
Got lost.
understanding. And I'm not one of those breeders that's going to pop something and pick a male that looks similar or whatever, because it's not the same no matter what. So
No,
if
and
there's
you can always do new work and make new stuff. You know.
right, exactly, the foundation is great, so moving forward would be awesome.
Yeah, Time Wreck was good though. It was good stuff. Black Phenos and
Yeah,
um, yeah, but you had a strain. What was it? It was like an Orgiesel to the Doctor Who.
old dirty diesel.
Old Dirty Diesel.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
is that still around or is that's
It is actually. There's still beans of that available. That's one that there's still a few packs left. At this point, it's been a minute since we've made anything new, so um, we're not having germination problems, but there's not many of them around. So
yeah. So Colorado, are you going to do a rec thing there, or what are you going to do there?
not much. I'm helping a cousin out here. My family has owned and operated a cabinet shop where we sell cabinets and flooring since '76. My grandfather started it, and my uncle went in with my grandfather, and then my cousin went in with his father and our grandfather, and grandfather passed. Now uncle has passed, and my cousin asked for some help, so I'm here helping him with that. Um, but I'm actually getting ready to do some work in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Oh
Yeah,
crap! Yeah, that's I hear that. I hear that's a rough market, and I don't know what the hell happened with that whole Cowboy Cup stuff. That sounds wild to me. I don't know.
so funny enough, I'm out there with Adam Dunn and several other people, Aztec Lighting, which is a new lighting company that I'm working with. Um, and our booth is right there next to the stage. So as they start coming off with all of that, I was just kind of like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And talk about embarrassing. They didn't tell any of the growers before that point in time. And you could tell because of the hush that came across the audience as this lady gets up there from Gangier or whatever it is and
Yeah, the
starts
Gangier.
explaining to these people that they don't know how to grow outdoor marijuana, but it's okay. Don't worry. We're on our way. We'll help you next year. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was unreal. Um, and I've been to a lot of competitions, right? I've been done a lot of cups, and I've never seen a situation like that. Um, and the thing is that everything that went into that competition had to be tested prior to being dropped off. Everything was
Yeah,
clean.
and then there was another situation. It was like apparently the stuff went to the dude's house, like the owner's house, there for like some extended period of time,
Who
and
knows? But yeah,
yeah, and then like he goes on Adam Dunn's show, and then at the end of the show, he pretty much announces that his he's partnered with the Ganjier program, the guy that founded the
yeah,
Cowboy Cup. I'm
yeah.
like, oh, what the fuck?
Well,
Like
yeah,
it
because
just seemed,
no, you're right. You're
it
absolutely right.
just seemed a little strange. But yeah, the samples, like, yeah, if they tested clean at the lab and then they get stored at the dude's house, like obviously
Yeah,
there was something that happened there, right? There was definitely a humidity change and some contamination, right? So
yeah,
it just
something.
seemed a little suspect to me.
Yeah, for sure. No, the whole thing was just weird, and that was my first Cowboy Cup. That's the first time I've been to it. Um,
And then the other,
I mean, it was cool. The people are really nice. The booths were cool and all that stuff. Actually, let's back up a little bit. So there was one farm that didn't get disqualified, and they apparently won because everybody else got disqualified. But they were the only farm that was sponsorship to the Gangiers. It was kind of weird how
what?
that worked. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's not obvious.
So I mean, it's bad enough that a lot of people think these cups are so rigged and everything like that, and you're just handing
Yeah.
them these softballs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they used to say, whether it's true or not, it's an alleged thing, right? But they used to say that just buy a lot of advertising, get a booth and spend 30,000 in advertising, and you might
right,
you might place are decent.
right. Within
Someone.
reason, I kind of can see that in a lot of areas, but I also have known people that are, not necessarily big names, didn't have a booth and watched them win. Braveheart
Yeah,
did with CBD that one year in Denver. He didn't have a booth, but he won with Mean Gene's Nubia or whatever is what he renamed it, but it was a high CBD.
and I
Um,
think I think there are cases where sometimes it's not rigged, right? But maybe sometimes it is. It's like who
right.
knows? And then there's the cups. They're not just high times cups are done. I think at this point, I don't think they're. I think 2017, 2018 done. Like everybody once California went to rec,
Yep.
Washington's rec, Oregon's rec,
Yeah.
like the whole West Coast is rec. Like they weren't
The
the
only way,
same.
yeah, no, the only once they go rec, you have to have all your paperwork in line. Now you've got to pay all your taxes. Not that we didn't before, but it was different thing. We got temporary tax IDs and all this other stuff, right? But once it went to rec, and we keep, like myself, we go in and Sonny and I would split booths with, say, like Mosca and La Plata or something like that. We can't do that stuff anymore, unless we go through another farm that has all their paperwork. You can't travel
Yeah,
around and do shows like you used to at all.
and
Um,
not only that, like I don't know, like you can't have metric. Like there's no metric tags for seeds, so it's like I
right.
don't understand
It's
how that
hard.
would.
It's
Yeah, I
hard.
don't know how that would work. Be a problem. And then yeah,
Yeah.
that's the other thing about driving to Oklahoma. Those guys, like, they're rebellious against metric. Like, I don't know how that's going to work out for them. I mean, they're going to need some type of tracking system. Or the state's not going
They,
to be like, okay, you guys can just like backdoor everything,
no, they've
right?
implemented metric, and if you're not follow along with it, they're going to pull your shit. They're going to take your
Yeah,
license back. I've been, because I'm headed out there. I've been studying their law, and everything to that effect. And you can try to buck it, but if you've went through all the hoops to get your licensing, and that's the one hoop you're not going to go through, they're either gonna sit there and watch you and bust you when you backdoor sell a bunch of stuff, or they're gonna pull your license. So, you know, fortunately enough, I've hooked up with a pretty good guy out there. He owns everything, no outside money. We both have kind of a lot of the same vision. So we're about ready. I'm going to venture into business with him and see how it goes. But yeah,
I
metrics
wonder.
already a thing they're already doing. So
I heard. I also saw a thing about there, Oklahoma. That they have, even though they're a much smaller state, they have more dispensaries than California.
California, Oregon, and Washington. Yeah, it's crazy,
That is insane. That is insane.
dude. They're all over. It's but now there's a moratorium on everything, right? So you can't buy anything new. You can't get any new licensing. So, but there's plenty of people going out of business because they either have mids or they didn't plan their business properly.
Yeah, there's a lot of mids going around, and then the other thing is like, um, let's just say the average smoker is not educated, and they walk into a dispensary and they're literally looking at labels at THC A or THC, percentages,
Right.
and it's this thing is 32 or 35, and if it's not at least 20, say 27, 28, they're not going to buy it. As where like
Right.
the 15% Kim dog is going to wreck them. They're not going to be able to get up off the couch. It's going to wreck them for the night,
Right.
right?
Right.
But the 32% ice cream, they're going to be smoking more in like 20 minutes because they're not high anymore. So
Absolutely.
I think there's a couple of problems with the whole THC percentage. One, I feel like there's not a true baseline that everybody calibrates from and and,
Right.
and and uses, and that's a major problem. And then two, I think there is some shenanigans going on in certain labs. I
No,
literally
absolutely.
have heard a lab say, "What do you think it's going to test at?
Right.
What do you want it to test at? It's like that kind of question is just, yeah." And
Right.
these are like license, Prop 64 testing stuff. It's nuts. It's nuts. It shouldn't happen, but it's not. People
Well,
aren't
and
people aren't buying
my greatest
buying it
thing,
for the right.
right? My comparison ratio is you don't walk into a liquor store and buy Everclear every time, do you?
No, no.
Right. So, it's a lack of education, and what's driving a lot of that are the youngsters, right? Because that's what's everybody's after is that high THC. So, but yeah, no, I've had people like hit me up for seeds, and well, what's the highest THC that stuff's ever tested? And Quantum Kush was our first one to break 30% back in like 2012, 20 whatever. Um, and I've seen lab results on it from other labs at 32, 33%. Um, but when you smoke it, you know that it's really strong when you smoke it. I mean, it floors you one or two hits. Um, but people don't want strains. They don't even want to buy seeds if you're not breaking 35% type shit. And it's like, man, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know anybody out there that's guaranteeing you seeds that are going to break. Everyone's going to be over 30%.
Every pheno is at least 30%. Yeah, I don't know of anybody doing that. And then not only that, like 35% of the weight is you're telling me is THC. Maybe a rare unicorn, one in a million, but not 40% of the shelf, in a bunch of different strains.
Right.
There's something going on. Yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah. No. Yeah. There's just no way. I agree. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so you think that this is 35%, 42%, whatever. Well, let's try it. Let's smoke it. Is there flavor to it? How long does it actually last? Um, you know, I don't know. That's such a wicked game right there, and it's been being played for so long at this point in time. I would have thought that there would be a standard at this point, but it doesn't seem that there is.
No, and that's the problem. And then you got this other like shenanigan thing where they sell these little gizmos that you put the
Yeah.
bud in, and it essentially takes a picture of the weed and then compares it to some database with some other pictures, and then gives you some mathematical calculation of what the percentage of THC is. That is
Right.
nonsense. If it's not a chemical test, it's not real.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right.
But
So yeah, there's a lot still to be figured out. We're still in the infancy of our emergence into mainstream. So there needs to be a lot of education work still done, for sure.
definitely. So what do you prefer to smoke these days? Is it still joints, or do you like hash or rosin or live resin or
Yeah, I'm still a flower guy. My son Mushmouth is killing it with rosins right at the moment, and everybody tells me how good they are and everything. And he gave me some, and he laughed when he handed it to me. He's like, "I know you're not going to smoke this, but at least you can show it to people and let other people try it." I was like, "Yeah,
is
that sounds like."
speaking of Mushmouth, because I haven't seen you guys when you guys did a hemp fest a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah,
And I seen that's when I'd seen both of you guys. Fuck, 2013, 14, 12, some one of those years.
right,
In that time frame.
right.
And and then I was talking to Spliff recently, like just like the other day, like yesterday, I was talking to Mr. Spliff, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I ran into to Mush, and like he's all growing up now. He looks, he's like unrecognizable. He's like all growing up, and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. I'm like, yeah, because I remember him too, being like a kid, you know.
He
And
was, yeah.
yeah, he's a cool ass kid, you know. Like, did he ever take on the breeding? Does he do anything of his own work or
He
anything?
did. Well, him and Pat from Heroes of the Farm. He worked at Heroes of the Farm for several years, and
Yeah,
they did quite a bit of breeding together. Yeah.
that's
Actually,
cool.
the strain that he entered the rosin for the Ego Clash Cup this year was one of the ones that him and Pat collabed on.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Heroes of the Farm. Pat does good stuff.
He does.
His his Marionberry is still one of my.
You
I like
know,
raspberry.
yeah, no, yeah. The Marionberry is a very, very good strain for sure.
Yeah, there might. Spliff is convinced that the raspberry and the I guess it was called the Pinot, the stuff that made the mom that made the cuvee. He's
The
convinced
Pinot
that
Noir.
they're the same cut. He thinks that they're the same exact cut, but I've never seen that Pinot myself, so I can't say. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. Um, I think that's a far stretch, but it's hard to say. I
Yeah, because
wasn't
I
there,
think
so I don't know.
and I think that came from that was like Leo Stone gifted
Yep,
it to Frenchie, and then Frenchie gave it to Monty, kind of
yep, pretty
thing.
much.
But
Yes.
I wasn't there either. I was doing some testing for TGA like 2011ish to about 2015ish, and then there was just like a lot of drama,
Right.
uh, and I've you know I don't know when I was like, man, I don't know. I just started making my own seeds, and
It's a lot easier, isn't it?
yeah, I was like, man, if these guys can do it, I can do it, you know. And I'm like, I have access to all the same cuts. I live in the same area. I know all the same people. I mean, what prevents me from trying to make my own thing? And
Right.
eventually, I just did it. I just did it, and I just gave them out for free years.
Right.
Just gave him hey, test, see if you like this. This might be shit, but maybe it's not. So, but yeah, I've done quite a few projects myself now, but I
Nice.
really am a fan of gas and OG. I like the Chem 4 cut, except chems don't always breed the most stable progeny. Sometimes it can be some issues.
Yeah, definitely not. They're kind of weird for sure. They're finicky.
Finicky, and there's still a possibility. Like, I don't know. Would you consider OG Kush and Chem the same family? 'Cause there seems to be, like, when you test a Chem or an OG, there's a lot of, like, in Chem Dog, you can get a lot of OG, like on Phylos at least it shows there'll be a lot of OG, and then there'll be
Right.
some skunk in there. So it's
Right.
like it makes me almost think like, maybe the original OG was like some Hermie Kim, or maybe some original Kim was some Hermie OG, or somewhere that came from the same stable at some point.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. Um,
I mean,
you know,
we don't.
that's the only way we'd know really is tracking and tracing of it. Some way through genealogy. The DNA makeup of it, structure. But yeah, that's they're definitely pretty close. I mean, a lot of them are all about the same time frame. Um, so it's definitely a good possibility.
Did you grow any of the any of the organ stuff like Williams Wonder? Did you ever get mess with that?
No, I never did grow the Williams Wonder.
Oh man, that's phenomenal stuff.
That's what I
Those
heard.
there's
That's what I've been
yeah.
told.
I
But now,
recently got some beans that are you familiar with AK Beans, the breeder up in Alaska?
yep.
He had some Super Sativa Seed Club stock. I guess that had been in a freezer for some crazy amount of years, and he revived it, and he had Williams Wonder and some
Uh,
other stuff, but he got Williams Wonder to go, and he got it to go. He basically took it to F4, and I bought some of those seeds, and I popped them last year, and they're yeah, it's good. It's just as good as the stuff I used to get 20 years ago in Seattle. It was called Williams Wonder.
nice.
It's like,
Very
yeah, it's short, stocky, indica.
right.
It's a good plant. But I want to get that fucking Doctor Who. I'm disappointed now that male doesn't exist anymore. That's
No, it does
I
not.
thought, I thought those seeds would go to like an F5 or an F7 or something, and then be
Uh,
around. Now I'm
no,
gonna have to hunt for
unfortunately,
Doctor.
yeah, unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. We want, like I said, we lost the males. We could be like several other breeders that I know and just find another male that was similar, but I can't do that. I know that it's different.
So is the clone in the rec market anywhere? Like in any rec markets like that sell clones?
Um, Not really. I kind of hold the grape Haichu pretty tight. Um, Mike and them, I don't think did anything to that effect either. But possibly with the master cut, but not the grape Haichu.
Yeah, that's just unique terps. Do you have Mad Scientist still? Do you have that living
I
form?
do. I do. So we have a lot of the original moms still. We just don't have the same dad. So I mean, we could do, we could pop Doctor Who, and we actually did that with the Doctor Who Mel. We hit it back to the Scientist. So we have Mad Scientist BX1, which is beautiful. Did a bunch of those there at Harborside. Um, Super frosty, super fruity. Held a lot of the same hue characteristics for sure. Um, but
Mercine dominant?
oh, very Mercian dominant, very very much so. Almost more so than the Doctor Who, because the mad scientist is higher in Mercine than the Doctor Who.
Oh, I
So
didn't
putting them,
realize that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, when you look at the lab charts, the mad scientist is like stupid high emercine to where the Doctor Who is high, but it's probably about half to three quarters of what the mad scientist is.
Yeah, that's what about the Professor Chaos?
Professor
Was
Chaos
that
is
like,
awesome.
is that also Mercian dominant as well though, or
Not as much, not as much. Um, but you can find phenos that are. That Jack the Ripper was pretty strong in what it passed along, and it had a lot of like lemony, more so the Jack noses for sure.
yeah? So yeah, it's cool. Hopefully you have, yeah, because most of the time when I find your seeds, I look on seedsherenow.com.
Right.
Seems to be like well, I know they're legit, and I know they're not old stock or at least if they are, he's at least going to see anything he sells. So
Right.
seeds
Right.
here now, pretty good, pretty good spot.
They've
Is
been
that
very good to us for sure. But
is there
yeah.
other spots, U.S. seed banks that you that have your
there,
stuff?
there was a couple. I don't know what stock they have left. But we did have a representative on the East Coast, Blue Bloods seeds, or yeah, Blue Bloods,
New buds?
Blue Blood, yeah,
Oh,
Blue
blue
Bloods,
blood.
yeah. He's out there in Massachusetts. Um, we had there was a few other American seed companies that had them. What stock they have now, I'm not quite sure of. It's really weird, since COVID happened. So we have seeds out to different breeders or different distributors that still owed. But since COVID happened, you don't hear from anybody. Nobody pays you. Nothing. It's kind of crazy. So
Yeah.
um, the only
It's
people I didn't
also
have that
another
problem with, sorry, the only
the other
people I didn't have that problem with feeds here now.
yeah, the other phenomenon, let's say since COVID, let's just say since like before COVID, a little bit before COVID, say like since
Right,
2018, is you used to
right.
go to a seed bank and you would see 20 or 30 breeders, and you go to the
Yeah.
same seed banks and you see 300 breeders, and then you start scrolling through the libraries, and it's a lot of the same type of shit. It's like very similar crosses.
Right,
It's
right.
everybody's taken all of the hype and crossed it to one male. And that male might be the hype too, might be one of the hypes. And
Yeah.
80% of it is untested F1s. And these people have been growing for 5 years or less, right? And
Yeah.
they're all of a sudden they're breeders. And they're selling their seeds for more than someone that's been breeding for 20 years with good
Right.
stuff. It's blows my mind. But and
Yeah.
then the seed bank, and the other thing is the seed banks, they haven't been doing anything to promote breeders. They don't do, a lot of them don't want, once they have your gear, um, you never hear back from them, right? Like they pay, if you get paid up front, you don't hear back. And
Right.
then, the other thing is like consignment, like a lot of them, they're stalling on paying. And so I don't think consignment is such a good thing going forward with seed
It's pretty
banks.
rough, that's for sure. We were pretty staunch about that most of the time that they had to pay up front. Um, but there's been a few that are like, okay, well, it's really not that many seeds. So I mean, it's not that big of a deal because once again, it's not that many seeds, but still, it's a matter of, I don't know, the respect given back that the breeder gave you to give them to you. I don't know. I could be looking at it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wish more people would test their stuff and weren't as much of copycats, and just wish there was a little bit more respect in cannabis in general. it feels like in medical people cared a little more. Since the rec days of the career started, it's this like crab pot mentality. Everybody wants to take everybody down. Nobody wants to allow anybody to rise to the top.
Right.
And then, then we have the other phenomenon of, $500, $800 packs of seeds.
$1,000 packs.
$1,000 packs of seeds. You got websites and people on social media $10 cuts for $1,000, and $10 cut in LA is a $1,000 cut in the East Coast, for instance. It's like
right.
Got some weird shenanigans going on. Weird world we live in these days.
It is,
but
it is.
And I don't really know what's going on with this wreck. Like, eventually I feel like it's gonna be the rentals, it's gonna be the tobacco companies. Those guys are gonna come in. Those guys actually know how to do business, right? Like not to put down like stoners or nothing, but a lot of stoners don't know how to create a product.
Right.
And these guys they've been creating product for a long time. And so when they come in, they're gonna buy the big names they're actually working. So like stuff like maybe like Jungle Boys, right? That probably get absorbed, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe Harborside or something like that might get absorbed like by a big name.
Right.
And then it's gonna be all over.
Yeah, the big money hasn't even come out yet to play yet. Once the federal legalization goes in, that's when the big guys will come play. They're doing now is testing. They're doing R&D. That's all.
Yeah, because once that stuff can be sold in 7-Eleven, now we're looking at a whole different scale, a scale that we've never seen or even imagined.
Exactly. It's going to be crazy for sure.
And right now it's like you said, it's like this little baby steps, right? But still, in the baby steps, what happened in the first 5 years, at least in California, like the legacy growers, if they weren't, if they didn't have any criminal records, they were able to come into these facilities, get them set up, write SOPs, then get fired, get some kid to come in, read SOPs, and be, everything gets compartmentalized. So you got a water boy, you got a team that just pulls leaves, you got a team that just mixes nutrients, a team that fucking does irrigation, you got a team that's clone team, you got a mom team, you got a veg team, you got a flower team, you got a harvest team, trim team. It's like, and everybody's getting paid $1 or $2 above minimum wage.
Right. If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, yeah.
Most of those companies, they call you back within the first year because they start failing again. Because what they forget is that, sure, we could put down on paper how to do it, but if you haven't been playing with the plant, you don't see what we do. You don't know how to react to different issues. So, no matter what, we're needed in the bigger pictures, because you have to have that eye. You've got to have that knowledge, and nothing is better knowledge than actual hands-on. You can read all the books in the world, but until you actually apply that book written message or information, it doesn't mean anything.
So I would imagine in your Prop 64 grows when you're in California, where those would all be salt based. Would that be right?
Most of them were, yeah, absolutely, especially the outdoor.
Dosatrons with drip irrigation, or
we used Dosatrons. We had one at Harborside. They put in a Previs system. The last big outdoor facility I worked at, it was a Netafim.
Yeah, Netafim. That's good stuff. Have you messed with any Trollmaster stuff?
No. The only ones that I've played with.
Yeah, it's more for indoor irrigation would be Trollmaster, but the controllers are real nice, super easy to set up. The menus are like they're just intuitive. It's just easy to set up. I'm not affiliated or anything with those people, but I've used a lot of their products and deployed them and set up rooms, and it's just like controllers that if you have to sit there and read a manual for a week to figure out how to program it, it's a piece of
Right.
shit,
Right.
right? I want something I can go to a menu, go to the day or the date, tap it, and then put a time and put however many times off on that I need for the irrigation, right? I don't want to have to like hope that it. I don't know. There was some stuff in the back in the day that was pretty difficult, not that long ago.
Yeah, no, Priva is a very difficult system, and expensive, but a very difficult system. But it will operate everything. It'll do your environmentals. It'll do your feeders. It'll do everything. I mean, you can set it up to where people have badges on, and when they walk through past the sensor, it checks them in, so you know what greenhouse they're in, or if they've done their tasks. Or, I mean, it's just crazy what that'll do. NetFM isn't that necessarily that advanced, but for larger grows, those big systems are needed.
Oh, definitely. You're not gonna, yeah, and they're getting a precise amount of food on a precise amount of time, and every time it's the same. And there's no way you would be able to do that with one.
Right.
And then employee to employee is going to vary a little bit different. Even if you tell them, hey, do this amount of water for 10 seconds, well, it's still going to vary. There's a human's variance there, right?
Right.
It's still going to vary.
Yeah, no, I've
So
tried all kinds of different ways to figure that one out. Because most of your nurseries you don't run with drip systems just due to the fact that you're moving plants so often, right?
mhm.
So there's still a lot of hand watering normally, but you tell somebody 2 seconds, count of two. Well, everybody's count of two is different, right?
Yeah,
So I went and got readers and meters, and even went and got one of those oil, like they use when you get your oil changed, right?
yeah.
So that you can adjust it. Tried that. It didn't work because you had to reset it every time. It was really more of a pain in the ass. But that's the hardest thing to teach somebody is how to properly water.
Hey, you just tell them, hey, get your dab timer out. 2 seconds.
Right?
Yeah, they know how to operate that.
Right.
Uh, funny. It's funny too. It's like when dabs first. I've been dabbing for a while too. About 2012 or so. Robert turned me on to. He was that place he was at in Kirkland, and he blew up. He was
Right.
making. He used to have a strain called NFO. Do you remember that one? It was orange. Had a lot of really orange hairs, and
Huh.
he used to grow Newfoundland NFO.
Oh
He
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah. I
super
do
proud.
remember that.
He was super proud of it, and
Yes.
he had some wax of that. And I went over his house one day, and he's like, or his apartment, and he's like, "Hey, you want to try a dab?" Because I was like a heavy flower smoker. I was smoking an eighth a day or more, like every day, flower, right? And this guy's, he's the homie. He's like, so I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll try this because I never had it. And he's like, okay, you got to come in the kitchen. I'm like, come in the kitchen, okay, whatever. So he pulls out the torch. I'm like, hey, wait, we smoking weed? Because I don't do no like other stuff, you know. And he's
Right.
like, yeah, I promise. He's like, yeah, I promise. It's just THC. He's like, I made it from my flower, from my NFO. And so he
Right.
opens the freezer and he pulls a parchment paper out, and it's got like a good piece of slab on there, and it looked nice. Now looking back now, it actually looked, it's nice color and everything. And so he takes the torch because I didn't know how to. I'd never lit a torch inside before at that point. At that
Right.
point in my life. Now it's like second nature. I've been dabbing every day since then, but at that point, yeah, I was like, so he lit the torch for me, and he like, he had at that time it had a titanium nail with a globe dome type thing on it,
Right.
and um, he lit it for me, and then he put the globe on it, and he had a big fucking glob. I mean, it was big. Like I don't even take dabs that big now, and I've been dabbing for since 2012, right? Before that, I was smoking for fucking forever. So anyway, so I take the dab, and it was literally the most floral thing I'd ever smoked. Like it was like I literally smoked like a magnolia flower. Like it was like in the concentrated form. It was crazy, like, but it was really good. But then I was so high. I was like, dude, I don't think I could drive right now. You mind if I sit? I was like, hey, you mind if I sit down for a while and chill out? And then I remember like going next door, like there was a QFC next door to his house, and I went to the QFC and like walked around, looked at the fruit, looked at everything like 5, 6 times. Still high, too high to drive. Go over to the Subway, get a sandwich, eat a sandwich, go back over to Rob, sit down for like I was like high for like 4 hours before I could drive. But yeah, I was like, yeah. And then after that day, I went to this. I was medical, right? I had medical at the time, and I went to a dispensary, and they had at that point they were calling it like earwax. Then at the time they didn't have all the names, like, and they wanted a lot of fucking money for it. So you know, knowing that Rob had this stuff, it was like, hey Rob, what do you want for you know? But no, it was cool. It was cool. I miss the medical days. Like, it
Absolutely.
took the fun out of it. Like, I don't really bitch about having to have a metric tag on stuff. Like, that's not the problem. It's just all the other regulations, compliance laws, and how expensive it is, and how taxed it is, and now it's not worth nothing. Like, you used to be able to get 3,200 for a pack easy, no problem, any day of
Right.
the week. Now it's like, oh yeah, $500. If it's
If you're lucky, it better be good.
yeah, yeah. It's like what $500? You know how much it costs to fucking put the lights on? Just the lights,
Right.
not counting all the other stuff, in the payroll, right? It's like, yeah,
Right.
it's crazy,
Right.
but yeah, it's changed. I don't know. What do you think the future is? You like you said, you think the big guys are going to come in, and how soon do you think before that happens?
I thought it was going to be a while ago, but it's hard to say. It really is. Um,
Yeah, didn't
with-
California have a 5-year moratorium before they could come in, and now January 1st, which was 14 days ago, they should be coming in, right? 5 years.
right. But there's no, well, don't get me wrong. I do know a group of people that just did a big fundraise and are getting ready to do a very large facility. They were able to raise like 260 something $1 million. So there's still groups of people out there doing big stuff now, right? It's not this smaller for sure, you know.
But when you're doing a Costco size grow, because that's probably going to be the smallest, right? So say like 1,000 lights, like Jungle Boys type stuff, like that's probably going to be considered small when you have R.J. Reynolds in charge or
Right.
Philip J. Moore, right?
Right. Well,
And so,
there. Go ahead.
what
Sorry.
I'm saying is like, so if you have, I don't know, you have 100,000 plants in a building, giant ass
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
How how difficult is it going to be to have craft cannabis that is
You
because you're
won't.
not that's going to be salt based. You're not going to be able to do an organic living soil on something that big,
Well,
at least, and make money.
absolutely right. So, not everybody drinks Budweiser or Coors, but a lot of people do, and it's a lot produced. It's just a smaller market that drinks the craft beers, but the craft beer market is doing well. So if you've been able to hold off, and once federal goes and we can ship it to anywhere in the world from our farm, that's a whole new ballgame. That's what we got to
That's
push.
true.
That's where branding and everything is really going to come in to play. Um,
Do you,
you
do
know,
you know if that's how it's working in Canada right now? Like, is the craft working up in Canada, like in a fashion like that?
not that I'm
I
aware
don't know
of.
any.
I don't know. I don't.
I don't really know
I
any
don't know.
Canadians, so
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I know a couple of people up there, but I've never really looked at what their market looks like or anything to that effect.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, like, yeah, like you're saying, like, it wouldn't matter where you're at. I mean, you can do indoor anywhere. You can be in Alaska,
Yep.
and if,
Yep.
send it to, somebody in Montana and New Jersey who wants that. But then, there's the terroir thing, but that's more like for outdoor, you know. I think indoor, I think indoor terroir is not really a thing, because you can make your environment pretty much anything, except the only thing indoor that I wonder about sometimes is, does elevation play a factor? So, like, say you're in Colorado, I don't know where you're at, but say you're in Denver, that you're like Mile High, versus
Yep.
somewhere like Portland, where you might be 100 feet above sea level at best, or something, a couple hundred feet above sea
Right.
level. I mean, that's got to play a factor. I mean, you can make the humidity and the temperature whatever you want, but you can't change elevation.
Right.
And
No.
geography on the Earth, like where you are on the planet, is because there's a different thing with, like, I don't even know. I'm not a scientist or nothing, but the pole is, it's just different. Like, your body feels like, if you're in Michigan versus if you're in Seattle, it just feels different.
Right.
Like, you, there's a different energy, right? And I feel like plants could possibly be affected by that. We're all living things, right?
Yeah.
We're
No. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would have to agree with that. But
you know
yeah.
like, if you grow OG Kush in Los Angeles and it comes out real gassy, dense, real gassy, and then you grow OG Kush in Seattle and somehow it's tropical, fruity, what happened? You know,
Right. Right.
you know, like, and then, some of that could be the inputs that they're using. Um, I've heard that certain inputs can change flavor. I know that there are some different lighting. You can definitely change morphology with some different lighting. If you give
Yeah.
a lot more red light, you're definitely going to get more stretch, versus more blue light. You'll get a more stockier, denser plant. Usually a lot of trichome production, but you won't have the yield.
Right.
You have a lot less yield.
Well, and we noticed that with
Um,
the Cream City Diesel growing it indoors. So we had a room that there was a metal halide and HPS, metal halide on one side, HPS on the other side. The half of the plant that was in the metal halide went purple. The other half did not. Yeah, that was pretty crazy, but that was years ago. Um,
did the
but yeah,
did you remember if the flavor? Do you remember if the flavor was different between the two sides?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, because, like, for instance, like, I noticed, like, a lot of times it's like green phenos. Like, you'll have a strain that has a purple pheno, and you'll have a strain that has the same strain will have a bunch of green phenos. The
Right.
green phenos will usually be more potent. They'll test higher in THC. They don't have the anthocyanin in them, so they're not as pretty to certain people. But and ultimately, if you're looking for stone, then I imagine you'd want those green phenos. And then, not only that, if you're making extracts, it doesn't matter what color it is.
Right.
you
Right.
know, if it's getting turned into, yeah. Oh, you got Miranda Family Farms in the chat. It's another weed nerd. You may know him out in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I think that I follow them on Instagram, or they follow me on Instagram.
He does some work with Jill,
Okay.
which
All right.
I don't know, whatever.
Right.
She blocked me, so whatever that's about. I
Yeah, her
said
and I are
something.
still. I'm sure
Said
her and I
something.
are still on good time terms, but yeah.
I posted a picture of myself, her, and Subcool, and it upset her, and said that it triggered her PTSD, and there was some choice words used, and apparently I'm a bad person for triggering that by posting that picture. But I wasn't posting that picture to trigger anything. I was posting that picture because it was a picture with me, her, and Subcool, and
Which
thought
most
maybe
likely would be a good memory.
I thought maybe some of the followers might want to see that. Not, it wasn't nothing. I didn't know that. I didn't know that that was going to offend her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know her like on a personal level, and so, and I definitely not there to know her everyday agenda and what's going through her head and what she likes, doesn't like, and what's going to trigger her. So it was whatever, whatever, whatever. I mean,
Right.
when I
Right.
said I stepped away from TGA in 2015 as a tester, it's because of the drama.
Understandable. Understandable. I was in that mess for sure.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause I remember you. I mean, yeah, I remember you said something on an interview once that like you wanted to get either your own booth or like your own table,
Yeah,
and sub flipped out,
pretty
and
much.
then like that's pretty much the end of that relationship.
Pretty much. Yeah, because he had brought in somebody else to start running the booth, and yeah, my sons and I weren't happy about it, and we wanted to run our own booth. And when I approached him with that, he kind of freaked out and was like, "Absolutely not." And I'm like, "Whoa, you don't own me." And yeah, that was part of the beginning of the end for sure.
So were you? Yeah, that was then. That was yeah, because you had probably what, close to a dozen strains under his label, right? That he was saying that
Yeah,
he took credit for everything. He took credit for
he took
everybody's work.
credit for everything. He once he told me that he owned everything we did, I was like, "Oh no, watch." You don't own anything. You don't make anything. You've never grown our gear. I don't know what you're
Yeah,
talking about. You were supposed to be our distributor. We are our own company. You are a distributor of our genetics. That's it. Once he told me that he owned everything, it's like, then he told us we couldn't get our own booth. Yeah, that's not the game that I wanted to play. So we left. I started working closely with Seeds Here Now for our distributor. And if you were going to get a booth at the cup, they just wouldn't carry your seeds. They would send everybody to your booth. They didn't care, right? Which is for a distributor, which is the way it should be. Sub wanted to control and own and whatever, and I don't play that game.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
I mean,
And
I
then
don't
you
want to plan
probably,
with others, but
so would you make you would make the seeds and then he would give you a percentage? Is that how that worked,
no,
or
it
would
was
you?
a set amount, and that was another issue was that I wanted more than what he was paying, and I wound up getting more than what he was paying everybody else because I was like, I'll just walk away. I know this is what you're selling them for. You're making X amount of dollars. We're buying all of our own packaging. We're doing all that stuff. No. So yeah, that was another issue.
Yeah.
And I mean, it
So
wasn't like much more. We got an extra 50 cents a seed.
wow. Yeah, it's not very much. So the stuff that was JTR mail and Time Wreck mail that was on Seeds Here Now, that was all stuff that was made before that relationship was severed.
No, the JTR, once we severed, we stopped making any and all crosses with the JTR. The time wreck we continued with because that was dioxides. We had asked dioxides
Yeah,
permission to continue to use that. So yeah, I didn't have an issue with continuing with that. But
doesn't have that credit anymore. Is that the deal? Why you can't get that mail anymore?
yeah,
Is
we don't have
dioxide
that
not
now.
having it?
It wasn't a dioxide mel. It was a mel we found from doing testing for
Oh, I see. I see.
him. So it was only in our farm. And then we shared it
I
with
see.
Pat once, so he did some crosses with it. But yeah, that was it. He never saw that male. Subcool never saw that mill.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think he saw. And he got really lucky with that whole like Space Queen thing. Like basically
Yeah.
a 10-pack of seeds, and you find a male in a 10-pack. You rename it to the dude, and then it became a big money maker for him. So
It did.
a lot more
It
money than Vic High ever made. Way more
did.
money than Vic High ever made by a long shot. And
Right.
not only that, Vic High didn't really get the credit for the super soil either that he really deserved.
That's
'Cause that was a borrowed idea too. From it's like I don't know. Vic High was a true legend. Where'd he go? Disappeared. Hopefully he'll come back. I think he clicked on something. Let's see if he comes back soon. I still who and TARDIS packs to pop. Well, Miranda, bro, if you make F2s and then Doctor Who's, hook a brother up. And that TARDIS is good stuff. See, hopefully he comes back. His phone may have died. It's possible because he was in a remote location in the car. We'll give it a few minutes. Back, I'll play some music here. There's a whole bunch of stuff I want to ask him, but yeah, it's like if all the people, kind of not starstruck, but a little bit like, whoa. I had a whole list of questions here, and I asked a bunch of shit out of order just because sometimes that's how it is. I haven't seen Odie in that's been 8-9 years probably. I saw him in Seattle. I guess it's been 8, maybe longer. No, 13. It's been like 10 years. Yeah, 2012, somewhere in those years. But hopefully he'll be back if his phone didn't die. If his phone died, then we'll end it and possibly have him on again if he's possible. And then what I'll probably do is come back in a little bit or a little bit later, and we'll do the Sons of Dank hangout and just talk or whatever you guys want to do a little bit later on tonight. Yo. Hey, Floor Nugs over at Lewis Cook's channel, just chilling, getting higher. I didn't realize Lewis Cook had videos. That's interesting. I'll have to check that out, Big Mo. To check that out. Odie comes back. I think his phone might have died. I'm not sure. Hopefully, I didn't say anything to offend him. Super chill dude.
a bit more time because, as I had said earlier,
no
I've got my mom and all that I'm running here and there, and the restaurant closes here in just a couple minutes. So.
All right, yeah, no problem. We can cut it short in a few minutes here.
But I would love to come back on. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
But as you can see now,
yeah, definitely. I do. Yeah, it's all good. I understand. Family's important. You guys spend time with family.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I do a show every Saturday night for sure, and then sometimes sporadically on Friday nights. Not every Friday night. Depends if I have something to do or not.
All right. Yeah.
But Friday night is usually like Spliff usually tries to join me on Friday nights, which is
Okay.
cool. We get some different conversations going. I'm not sure what you guys' relationship is like. I'm hoping it's not bad.
No, it's not bad. I don't
Okay.
think so. I don't know unless I did
I don't
something to
think
upset him.
either. No, he always spoke highly of you. So,
Yeah.
and
But
he
yeah.
likes, mush. Everybody likes mush mouth.
You know, unfortunately, and then Mush has got an older brother that he had kids, so he wasn't able to go to a lot of the shows with me. So that's where Mush got the upper hand, was that he doesn't have kids. So he was able to travel and everything. So more people know Mush better just because he did a lot more shows with me for sure. But he's a good kid either way.
So do you breed and grow that? I mean, not on a commercial scale, like the stuff you do at home. Are you doing a super soil, or are you growing in peat, cocoa? Like, what's your style?
Well, at home I like the Bio 365 soil. I'm a huge fan of that. At most of the grows, though, yeah, it's a heavy peat or heavy cocoa for sure. With the salts, it kind of just goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of do a combination where I use the salts and I use organics where I inoculate with like different bacillus type stuff.
Right.
Use a little bit of bacteria, fungi. I think goes a long ways with the salts. And the whole thing with the salt is like, if I want 800 ppm or if I want 1,000 ppm, I can dial it exactly to that, right? It's kind of and another thing, like I'm feeding a plant 2-3 times a day. I don't know. There's advantages to both ways, the true organics and stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it depends on the objective, what you're doing.
And scale.
Like the KNF thing, right? Like there's this like debate, like the KNF guys will say, "Oh, you bottle growers, like they'll dog on people using bottled nutrients, but at
Right.
the same time, they'll have 30 little jars all over their house of fermented stinky shit, right? That
Right.
they're making. They only use like this thing for this one thing, and then they got the other one for the one thing, and it's like, okay, so how are you any better having your 30 bottles of shit that could go bad at any time? And
Right.
how's
That's the
that
thing.
better?
So I've been hanging out with Miles Felipe here lately, and he's a big KNF guy.
Yeah.
He does a lot of speaking, a lot of classes, whatnot to that effect. And yeah, they have bottles that they sell of their stuff that they make. So it kind of puzzles me, but I don't know. I know that
they grow some. They do grow some nice weed that has some really nice smell. I'll say that for sure.
Right. No, it's good for sure.
But I feel it's a whole lot more effort, and not something you could ever do at scale.
No. I mean, you could, because look at Roots or not Roots. Sorry, Oregon's Own.
Organs only. Oh yeah.
Yeah. They have a lot of they break down all their own stuff in big vats. So I mean, you can do it, but you really got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's
For sure.
then there's like what the Jodam method, which is even I don't know. I guess that's probably a little different than Korean farming, maybe.
Yeah,
Sure.
probably.
Did you ever experiment with the True Living Organics, the Rev, which is he was a kind of popular guy in Oregon. He was writing for Skunk magazine. I think he might even still write for it.
Yeah, no, Rev's a cool cat.
But yeah, he had like the lasagna method. I used to grill like that. Actually, when I was growing the Doctor Who, when it was first a thing, um, that's how I grew it, with the TLO method. Where you kind of do a super soil with the TLO kind of thing. I was copying Rob at the time. That's what he was doing.
Right. Right.
And yeah, it was cool. It's good stuff. But yeah, Doctor Who. So there'll never be so there are some crosses of it that are close, or you're saying that are seed form out there, or
We'll probably do some more work with it. Maybe pull another male from remaining stock, the seed stock that we have, kind of thing. But it's hard to say right at the moment for sure.
yeah, because that was it had a unique flavor profile that was good, really good.
Yes.
TARDIS is another one. You made a TARDIS, right? Which
Yep,
was
that's Oregon Diesel by Time Wreck.
Oregon Diesel by TARDIS. Okay, no Doctor Who in that. Okay.
Nope, that's the old Dirty Diesel. That's Oregon
Dirty
Diesel by Doctor Who.
Oh, I see.
Right. But I mean, we did
the
that.
Phoenix. But that was a while ago. That was 5 years ago, though, right? At this point.
Around there somewhere. Yeah, if that. That California thing really threw me. We were supposed to do a lot more stuff than what we were able to do. So that's why this next venture, I've made sure that I have 350 light rooms dedicated to seed popping and breeding.
And are you going to try to, you're going to do more releases once you're down there and established? Are you going to do releases to, like white label for other people, kind of like like sell flower and stuff down there?
No, I tried that game for a minute. And what all them superstars, rappers, and all that stuff, they want you to pay them to use their name, and it's like, okay. So I don't know. They don't want to like straight out, flat out just buy the genetic, right? So yeah, no, we'll release stuff back to like Seeds Here Now and Attitude, Seed Bank, and stuff to that effect. But then all the testing will be in house, and the phenos that we find and like, once we're a couple steps ahead, we'll be selling clones of after we've built up a reputation for them. Absolutely. And the seeds. But it's just a little bit different of a venture that I'm doing this time around, for sure.
Do you are you going to try to like build a new male? Is that what you're going to do now that you don't have those other things? Are you going to build it from the work you've already made, or are you going to venture out for look at new stuff that's out there and maybe crossing into that work that you've already done?
I'm probably going to venture with quite a bit of both of those. We'll probably take a lot of these Doctor Who crosses, the male Doctor Who crosses, and at least do a back cross or an F1, more or less a back cross with them, cross them back to themselves, or F1 or F2, whatever you can call it, and then play with it a little bit more with some of our original stock. But we still have some of the same original moms, so there are just so many different directions to go. It's kind of like, which one do we want to attack first? And first, I want to establish us as a brand that's in Oklahoma at this point, unfortunately, but not necessarily unfortunately, but it's where we found a good fit for what we want to do.
Is your website not working right now?
It isn't. It is down.
Yeah, because I've been having a hard time getting to it. Like it wasn't updated forever.
Yeah.
Then I couldn't. And then all of a sudden I couldn't get to it for like about a while now, a little bit.
It has been a little bit. But yeah, that's. Just trying to get this up.
You can't.
You can, guys. I just got it up there. But yeah, so there's new things coming up, and in the not so distant future.
That's good. That's exciting though. It means people have stuff to, look forward to, because for the longest time it looked like things were dead. Like you'd gone to California to go work for the big guys, and you were retiring from breeding. That's what a lot of people were afraid of, because you at one point said like, yeah, you were not working with the time wreck anymore for obvious reasons, and Jack the Ripper would be the same thing. But I guess the time wreck was made by the oxide. I didn't realize that until later on. So more recently.
Yeah.
So with the other one, yeah, I understand now. So no more Mickey Kush or Touch of Gray or those ones. Which I Touch of Gray that was a good strain. That was Jack Straw.
Yeah. And then we did the Touch of Gray. Was really nice for sure. And we did the 11 with that, which was the Time Wreck by the Touch of Gray, and the 11 was the producer, the progeny from that. So we're probably going to do some more work with that as well, but just because of the super silver haze that's in it, that's really nice strong haze that comes to it, does really well, and it's the classic haze. It's not the lemony flavoring haze. So I like it.
Is the mother of Sweet Irish Kush still in your stable?
Sweet Irish Kush was made by a friend of mine here in Colorado years ago. I only received it as a clone.
Wait, that was the mom of Mickey Kush. That's what that was. Was that?
That's right? The mom to Mickey Kush and Quantum Kush.
Around?
Yeah.
Sweet. So you can still do work with that mom.
Yeah. 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 Yes, I have it in other places. So yeah.
That'd be good, because that was a really nice one to smoke. All of them were nice to smoke. I mean, like all your work that you did back then, like I thought was some of the best stuff to come from that brand at that time.
I was told that by several people, but thank you.
And then well, Doctor Who. I mean, literally, I still have the pictures from back then of it, and I was growing under a shitty, well, not shitty, but by today's standards, it'd be shit. But I used to use 600-watt portalock.
Yeah.
With double XL hoods, and they actually worked pretty good.
I was a big fan of 600s. That's mainly what we grew with. I like them because you can put more points of light in and hold temperatures better, and he'll hold them closer to the plants and all kinds of stuff. They were actually designed for indoor horticulture.
Yeah. But yeah, it's yeah. Come on sometime, definitely. Like any Friday or Saturday night. And
that would be awesome. I apologize. I wasn't expecting to have to rescue. But when your car breaks down, nobody's expecting to have to deal with that anyways. So
No.
What do you
no.
And then when it's your mom,
it's something you got to do. It's family. It's good karma points. It's it's all good.
Right.
The fact that so yeah, it was good. It was good that we were able to catch up and chop it up for a little bit, and hopefully next time I'll have a better line of questions. I kind of went all over the place tonight.
That's all right. That's a perfect stoner show, right?
Yeah, perfect stoner stuff. I took a few.
That's That's always my biggest problem is I'll get asked a question, be explaining it, and then forget what the question was.
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
Either way.
yeah, maybe in a week, next week or a week after or whenever you got
Yeah, yeah.
time, just message me and we'll you know, so I'll send you the link and jump on, you know.
Cool, man. Thanks for
But
having
yeah,
me
if there's
on. I
anything you want to
definitely
tell people,
appreciate it.
yeah, and how do people find you? And let's see, the best place to get your gear right now is where seedsherenow.com and
No,
your Instagram.
I don't know how their stock is, but you can find me on Instagram, Homegrown Natural Wonders. The remaining little bit of stock we have, I have. So just hit the DM.
All right, on. Okay, well, cool. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and you have a good night, and we'll talk next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
All right. Bye.
Everybody in chat, thanks. Everybody in chat, thanks for coming by and watching the show, and till next time, peace in this live.